All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dowell. I'm going to paint a picture here for you here this morning. And it's going to be very pessimistic in nature simply because it is a present day reality that is developing right up under our nose. It is a literal reality that is taking place. You know, I've often made the statement, and the statement goes something like this: those who do not know history are destined to repeat the same mistakes of the past. And I want you to listen to me real close because, you know, I really, truly feel sorry for you people who are caught into these population centers, especially those of you who think that you're going to get raptured up out of here in a poof, in a moment, and twinkle of an eye before the Great Tribulation. We have things developing in this country. You need to understand the way that government thinks. Government does not want to do anything that's going to cause a civil uprising or panic. And if that means withholding pertinent information from you so that they don't have mass chaos on their hands, they will do that. Did you hear what I said? They will do that. And I think that many of us, even though we're here in America across the big old pond, and if things, excuse me, and if things are not happening to us across this pond, and things are going on over in the other world, somehow, some way, we've equated this to it can never happen to us. It never will happen to us. And you know, this normacy bias is going to be chaotic. But I want to be able to read something here. Matter of fact, I'm going to read something. I'm going to read something. Read an article here. And reading this article right here, I want you to understand something, because I understand the nature of us. Many of us, we try to just put away calamity and catastrophe out of our minds, and then we make fun of people like myself and other people out there who choose to actually exercise independent thinking and always be prepared for a just-in-case scenario. You know, for instance, a world without rule of law. You know, there's an interstate called 95 South. Man, can you imagine trying to get out of some of these major population centers when crap literally hits the fan? And I know that most people don't want to hear this kind of talk. Believe you me, I know that people don't want to hear this kind of talk because this is not popular talk. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me raise up here for a second. I'm going to actually go ahead and speak to you and read this article right here to you because we need a defibrillator on our mind. We need to be reminded. As recent as 1992, and let's go ahead and read this. All right. Bosnia War. All right, listen to this. Bosnia War survivor warns of things to come in collapse of America. Now, we talking for someone who has experience, not someone who doesn't know. You know, most of you have never been to a third world country, and most of you have never been to a war-torn zone and have no idea of the amount of suffering. And many of you do not know. See, many of you, you give yourself a pass because you choose to put things out of your mind. And you have no idea what the human spirit will do. I don't care how saved, I don't care how sanctified, I don't care what God or God you believe in or whatever it is. Many of you do not know, and neither do you understand what type of challenges that will be presented to you and your family when it comes to survival, when every man and every woman is after surviving for their own self and their own. I'm telling you, the human spirit can decline real quick. Don't let civilization fool you. Don't let laws fool you one bit. Let's go ahead and with this article. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be very painful, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and read this. Bosnia War survivor warns of things to come in the collapse of America. Natural news. We are republishing two important stories here. that you need to read. The first is the report of a man who survived the war in Bosnia. Although the source of this cannot be confirmed, the advice is extremely valuable regardless. The second story, apprehended to the bottom of this article, lists 35 excuses that will get you killed if you fail to prepare for what's coming. This was originally published on shtfplan.com as a source below. So here it is first. 1 year of hell. I am from Bosnia. You know, between 1992 and 1995, it was hell. For 1 year, I lived and survived in a city with 6,000 people without water, electricity, gasoline, medical help, civil defense, distribution service, any kind, traditional service, or centralized rule. Our city was blockaded by the army, and for 1 year, life in the city turned into total crap. We had no army, no police. We only had armed groups. Those armed protected their homes and families. When it all started, some of us were better prepared, but most of the neighbors and families had enough food for only a few days. Did y'all hear that? Only a few days. Some had pistols, a few had AK-47s or shotguns. After a month or two, gangs started operating, destroying everything. Hospitals, for example, turned into slaughterhouses. There was no more police. About 80% of the hospital staff were gone. I got lucky. My family at the time was fairly large, 15 people in a large house, 6 pistols, 3 AKs. And we survived, most of us at least. The Americans dropped MREs every 10 days to help blockade cities. This was never enough. Some, very few, had gardens. It took 3 months for the first rumors to spread of men dying from hunger and cold. We removed all the doors, the window frames, and abandoned houses, ripped up floors, and burned the furniture for heat. Ooh. Many died from diseases, especially from the water. 2 from my own family. We drank mostly rainwater, ate pigeons, and even rats. And I know most of you people in America, you can't fathom this. But let me tell you, it's coming to a city, a town, a state near you. Money became worthless. We returned to an exchange for a tin can of what they think Soviet spam. You could have a woman. In other words, for 1 can of spam, you could have a woman, meaning you could have sexual relationships with her. And most people took it anyway. It is hard to speak of, but it's true. Most of the women who sold themselves were desperate mothers. Arms, ammunition, candles, lighters, antibiotics, gasoline, batteries, food. We fought for these things like animals. In these situations, it all changes. Men become monsters. It was disgusting. Strength was in numbers. A man living alone, getting killed and robbed would be just a matter of time, even if he was armed. Today, me and my family are well prepared. I am well armed. I have experience. Pay attention to that word, experience. It does not matter what will happen. An earthquake, a war, a tsunami, aliens, terrorists, economic collapse, uprising. The important part is that something will happen. Here's my experience. I can't make it on your own, or you can't make it on your own. Don't stay apart from your family. Prepare together. Choose reliable friends. How to move safely in a city. The city was divided into communities along streets. Our streets, 15 to 20 homes, had patrols. 5 armed men every week to watch for gangs and for our enemies. The exchanges occurred in the street. About 5 kilometers away was an entire street for trading, all well organized. But going there was too dangerous because of the snipers. You could also get robbed by bandits. I only went there twice, and when I needed something really rare like medicine, mainly antibiotics, of the French original of the text, nobody used automobiles in the city. The streets were blocked from wreckage by abandoned cars. Gasoline was very expensive. If one needed to go somewhere, that was done at night. Never travel alone or in groups that were too big. Always 2 to 3 men, all armed, travel swift, in the shadows, cross streets through ruins, not along open streets. There were many gangs, 10 to 15 men strong, some as large as 50 men. But there were also many normal men like you and me, fathers, grandfathers, who killed and robbed. There were no good and bad men. Most were in the middle and ready for the worst. Number 2, what about wood? Your home is surrounded by woods. Why do you burn doors and furniture? There were not many woods around the city. It was very beautiful. Restaurants, cinemas, schools, even airports. Every tree in the city and in the city park was cut down for fuel. And in the first 2 months without electricity for cooking and heat. We burned anything that burned. Furniture, doors, flooring. That would burn swiftly. We had no suburbs or suburban farms. The enemy that was in the suburbs, we were surrounded. Even in the city, you never knew who was your enemy at any given point. Number 3, what knowledge was useful to you in that period? To imagine the situation a bit better, you should know it was practically a return to the Stone Age. For an example, I had a container of cooking gas, but I did use it for heat. If that would be too expensive, I attached a nozzle to it and made myself and used to fill lighters. Lighters were precious. If a man bought a empty lighter, I would fill it. If he would give me a tin for food or a candle, I was a paramedic. In these conditions, my knowledge was my health or my wealth, excuse me. Let me see. So if you're a paramedic in that case, in those scenarios right there, the knowledge that you obtained was literally your wealth. Be curious and skilled in these conditions. The ability to fix things is more valuable than gold. Wow. Items and supplies will inevitably run out, but your skills will keep you fed. I harp on that all the time by being doers. And most of you haven't had the experience like myself and a few of the veterans and stuff where we've been in worst case scenarios where we've had training to where we know how to survive, do some form of first aid or whatever it is. And I tell you, if you don't, the best investment that you can ever do is invest in yourself. Because while people may take everything away from you, if that's a possibility, and with many of you, it's a good possibility. The one thing they can't take right here, even if they kill you, is the knowledge and wealth that you have invested in yourself by educating your own self. Let's go on here for a second. I wish to say this: learn to fix things, shoes, or people. My neighbor, for an example, knew how to make kerosene for lamps. He never went hungry. Number 4, we're at number 4 now. If you had 3 months to prepare now, what would you do? 3 months? Run away from the country. Then he's joking. He put it in there. Today, I know everything can collapse really fast. I have a stockpile of food, hygiene items, batteries, enough to last me for 6 months. I live in a very secure flat and own a home with a shelter in a village 5 kilometers away. Another 6 months supply there too. In other words, he has what we would call today a place they could go to bug out, or somebody he may know there, mutual assistance group, somebody who within 5 kilometers, which is about 3 miles away, that he can actually go to, and they're a trustworthy source, and then they would help each other in conditions like this. Most of you, I'm telling you, you think that you understand what's going on, but unless you've been to a third world country and seen some of the things that us veterans have seen, you have no idea. And it's you think it's bad in these cities now. Wait till there's when there's no rule of law and see how bad it is. There's a small village. Most people there are well prepared. The war had taught them. I have 4 weapons and 2,000 rounds for each. Can you imagine that? I mean, here's a box of rounds right here. This is a box of 22s right here. And look at this little thing right. Can you imagine how valuable this one little bullet will be right here in a situation like that. And many of you live in population centers the way you can't even own a firearm. You can't even have it in your home, much less even use it to protect yourselves. What in the hell is wrong with you people? And you still stuck in those cities? Whew. See, a lot of these groups, they're already militant. And they already got a game plan. Hey, stuff start collapsing, don't worry about it. And since most of you are goys and goyams anyway, you don't mean nothing. Hey, it's war. And they don't care nothing about you. Most of you don't even carry around a pocket knife on a daily basis. You have no idea how to even operate the thing. You have no skill set whatsoever at all. The government is even after these 223 rounds right now. Many of you have no idea to what a combination knife is. That, hey, this right here will be more valuable than what gold in a time like this. You have no idea. Y'all forbid for you to see, oh, it's an assault rifle. It's an assault rifle. Wow. I've never in my life, as many times as I've trained many soldiers, and I ran ranges and given professional instructions on handguns. I've never seen a handgun jump up off a table, and you let me know during this video if this thing is so dangerous that it will move on its own and turn around and put its barrel to my head and shoot it. I've never seen it. I've seen a human being take it and use it to destroy, but I've never seen it before. I've never seen it before in my life. Let's go on right here to the next one right here. Have a garden and have learned gardening. Also, I have a good instinct, you know. When everyone around you keeps telling you that it'll be all fine, but I know it will collapse. I have strength to do what I need to protect my family because when it all collapses, you must be ready to do bad things to keep your children alive and to protect your family. Surviving on your own is practically impossible. That's what I think. Even you're armed and ready. If you're alone, you'll die. I have seen that happen many times. Families and groups well prepared with skills and knowledge in various fields. That's much better. Tell you what I do, because I don't want to make this video extremely long. If you would like for me to continue on with this article right here, and then interject my personal experience, wisdom, knowledge, and instruction, or whatever I can add to this, we'll continue on with part 5. But hey, it is something that we need to know. All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, sisters, YouTube. This is Pastor Dowell. We are back here with part 2 of Living Through the Collapse, first-hand information. All right, we're going to go ahead and pick up at number 5 where we left off, all right? Here we go. What should you stockpile? That depends. If you plan to live by theft, all you need is weapons and ammo, and lots of ammo. If not, more food, hygiene items, batteries, accumulators, little trading items like knives, lighters, flints, soap. Also, alcohol of the type that keeps well. The cleanest whiskey is a good trading item. Many people died from insufficient hygiene. Meaning cleanliness is very important because, you know, disease can quickly take over an environment like it. I mean, quickly take over in environments like that. You'll need simple items in great amounts. For an example, garbage bags, lots of them, toilet paper, non-reusable dishes and cups. You'll need lots of them. I know that because we didn't have any at all. As for me, a supply of hygiene items is perhaps more important than food. You can shoot a pigeon. You can find a plant to eat, and you can't shoot or find any disinfectant. Disinfectant, detergents, bleach, soap, gloves, masks, first aid skills, washing for wounds and burns. Perhaps you will find a doctor and will not be able to pay him. Learn to use antibiotics. It's good to have a stockpile of them. If you, should you choose the simplest weapons, I carry a Glock 45. I like it. but it's a rare gun here. So I have 2 TT pistols, too. I don't like of course, he's talking about a certain AR-15, but again, same story. You must own small, unnoticeable items. For example, a generator is good, but 1,000 big lighters are better. A generator will attract attention if there's any trouble, but 1,000 lighters are compact, cheap, and can always be traded. We'll usually collect rainwater into 4 large barrels and then boil it. There was a small river, but the river became very dirty very fast. It's also important to have containers for waters, barrels, and buckets. I remember in '88 when we jumped into Honduras that I was amazed as we began to march along the countryside there. And of course, when we jumped in to Honduras, I mean the ground was so dry, the cracks in the ground was that thick, and scorpions everywhere. Woke up in the morning, scorpions all over me. But I remember passing by places where little small villages and little small towns and stuff. I remember going by creeks and stuff, and where there was rivers and stuff, and seeing what we would call like a tent city or box city, and people's drinking water and pissing water and cleaning water all came from that river that flowed. And boy, I tell you got the bad end of it if you were downstream, if you understand what I mean. But it won't take long for creeks and natural resources or anything to get polluted, so you can't always depend upon the benevolence of man to do right in situations like this, because after all, it's all about survival. Anyway, let's go on right here. Number 6, were gold and silver useful? Yes, I personally traded all the gold in the house for ammunition. Sometimes we got our hands on money, dollars and Deutschmarks. We bought some things for them, but this was rare and prices were astronomical. For an example, a can of beans cost $30 to $40. 1 can of beans. The local money quickly became worthless. Everything we needed, we traded for through barter. I tell you what, I think about this silver coin right here. Wow. You know what you could buy if you did not prepare? And you could use this for trade and barter. What could you get for this? This big 10-ounce silver coin right here. If you didn't have this on hand, you have nothing to trade or barter with. And even if you had it, you have to learn how to defend it on your person. Man, I tell you, this is world with human beings. World without rules of law. No police, no force, no nothing. Was salt expensive? Salt now. Yes, but coffee and cigarettes were even more expensive. I had lots of alcohol and traded it without problems. Alcohol consumption grew over 10 times as compared to peacetime. Perhaps today it's more useful to keep a stock of cigarettes, lighters, and batteries. They take up less space. At this time, I was not a survivalist. We had no time to prepare. 7 days before shit hit the fan, the politicians kept repeating it over the TV that everything was going according to plan. There's no reason to be concerned. When the sky fell on our heads, we took what we could. And that's why I keep telling you, a politician, if their mouth is moving, they're lying. They are not about to say anything to inform you if some type of disaster is getting ready to come. You can forget about it. But you can tell what's getting ready to happen when you see the president run for the hills. You can tell that something's bad getting ready to take place. I promise you. But the rest of us, we're left for cannon fodder. Now, you can choose to trust into these liars, these professional liars, all you want, but it's not my advice. I wouldn't do it if I were you. Let's go to number 8. Was it difficult to purchase firearms? And what did you trade for arms and ammunition? After the war, we had guns in every house. The police confiscated lots of guns at the beginning of the war, but most of them we hid. Now I have one legal gun that I have a license for under the law that's called a temporary collection. If there were unrest, the government will seize all registered guns. Never forget that. There are many people who have one legal gun. but also illegal guns if that one gets seized. Let me see, if you have good trade goods, you might be able to get a gun in a tough situation. But remember, the most difficult time is the first days, and perhaps you won't have enough time to find a weapon to protect your family. To be disarmed in a time of chaos and panic is a bad idea. In my case, there was a man who needed a car battery for his radio. He had shotguns. I traded the accumulator for both of them. Sometimes I traded munitions for food, and a few weeks later traded food for munitions. Never did the trade at home, never in great amounts. Few people knew how much and what I kept at home. The most important thing is to keep as many things as possible in terms of space and money. Eventually, you'll understand what is more valuable. Correction. I always valued weapons and ammunition the most. Second, maybe gas mask and filters. Is this not some scathing information right here? I mean, are you simply ready for stuff like this? Number 9, what about security? Our defenses were very primitive. Again, we weren't ready, and we used what we could. The windows were shattered, and the roofs were in horrible state after the bombings. The windows were blocked, some with sandbags and other with rocks. I blocked the fence and the gate and wreckage with garbage. I used a ladder to get across the wall, and when I came home, I asked someone inside to pass over the ladder. We had a fellow on our streets that completely barricaded himself in his house. He broke a hole in the wall, creating a passage for himself into the ruins of the neighbor's house, a sort of secret entrance. Maybe this would seem strange, but the most protected houses were looted and destroyed first in my area of the city. They were beautiful houses with walls, dogs, alarms, and barred windows. People attacked them first. Some held out, others didn't. It all depended on how many hand guns they had inside. I think defense is very important, but it must be carried out unobstructively. If you are in a city and shit at the fans comes, you will need a simple, non-flashly place with lots of guns and ammo. How much ammo? As much as possible. Make your house as unattractive as you can. Right now, I own a steel door, but that's just against the first wave of chaos. After that passes, I will leave the city to rejoin a larger group of my friends and family. And again, I have to stop right here in mid-article right here because, it's stating for you and it's showing for you the importance of mutual assistance group. And most of you, you have burned so many bridges with people who could be reliable and dependable for something like this. And you're bitten of the fruit of lies, thinking that your family, who is totally unprepared, and all these other people who ever think that nothing like this could ever happen in the good old United States of America, you're in a serious delusion. And so many of you have burned bridges and messed up friendships and relationships of people who actually have honor and duty and integrity in their hearts and will defend not only themselves, but they would even defend your right to live and to exist because they're warriors. And some of you don't have a lick of skill set. And it's just a sad, sad thing. And most of you are sick out there that even if you try to defend something, it wouldn't last too long before you get overran. I tell you what, it sure is good to have a strong defense, but not only that, it's good for you to actually, even at times, to even train your people what to do in a worst case scenario, whether you be in a church setting or whether you're on the land and then somebody decides or a group decides they were going to come in and open up fire on you. Teach the people how to respond. Teach the people how to react. Let it become second nature. Most people, I'm telling you, we are in a matrix and we are asleep in this country, and it is literally just a shame. Okay, let's go on right here. There were some situations during the war. There's no need for details, but we always had superior firepower and a brick wall on our side. And I just think the other day I had somebody making fun of my block walls. We're amazing, isn't it? We also constantly kept someone watching the streets, quality organization and paramount. In case of gang attacks. Sure, you need somebody to be out pulling sentry. Somebody needs to be pulling guard to watch for the defense and the better welfare of the group. Shooting was constantly heard in the city. Our perimeter was defended primitively. All the exits were barricaded and had little firing slits. Inside, we had at least 5 family members all ready for battle at any time, and 1 man in the streets hidden in the shelter. We stayed at home through the day to avoid sniper fire. At first, the weak perish, then the rest fight. And during the day, the streets were practically empty due to sniper fire. The fences were oriented towards shot range combat alone. Many died if they went out to gather information. For an example, it's important to remember that we had no information, no radio, no TV, only rumors and nothing else. There was no organized army. Every man fought. We had no choice. Everybody was armed, ready to defend themselves. You should not wear quality items in the city. Someone will murder you and take them, and don't even carry a pretty long arm that will attract attention. Let me tell you something. If shit at the fan starts tomorrow, I'll be humbled. I'll look like everyone else, desperate, fearful, and this is a very strategic approach too. Maybe I'll even shout and cry a little bit. I tell you what, the one thing you can learn about Hollywood is you can learn when you know you need to act. And some of you ain't got enough sense to know when to act. You just don't. It's just amazing. Where I'm at. Pretty clothing is excluded altogether. I will go out in my new tactical outfit to shout, I have come. You're doomed, bad guys. No, I'll stay aside, well armed, well prepared, waiting and evaluating possibilities for my best friend or my brother. Super defenses, super guns are meaningless. If people think they should steal your things that are profitable, they will. It's only a question of time and the amount of guns and hands. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll go ahead and stop this video right here in part 2, and we'll continue on with number 10 immediately after this. I hope you're enjoying this series. All right. Greetings to each and every last one of you. This is Pastor Dowell, and I hope that you are learning something and that some way, somehow, we're stimulating thought as we go through this series, Living Through the Collapse of First-Hand Account, and we're on part number 3. We're going to pick up with number 10, and then it's going to go off into a little bit more here in this article, and we hope that some way, somehow, that we're doing our part to help you to be informed as we go forward. Let's go ahead and get started with number 10 right here for a second. How was the situation with toilets? We used shovels and a patch of earth near the house. Does it seem dirty? It was. We washed with rainwater or in the river, but for the most of the time, the latter was too dangerous. We had no toilet paper, and if we had any, I would have traded it away. It was a dirty business. Let me give you a piece of advice. You need guns and ammo first, and second, everything else, literally everything. All depends on the space and the money you have. Did you hear what I said? You need guns and ammo first. Number 1 priority, number 1. Guns, ammo first. You need this first. Guns, ammo first. Everything else is secondary. All right. If you forget something, there will always be someone to trade with for you or with you for it. But if you forget weapons and ammo, there will be no access to trading for you. I don't think big families are extra miles. Big families means both more guns and strength. And from there, everyone prepares his own. Number 11, how did people treat the sick and the injured? Most injuries were from gunfire. Without a specialist and without equipment, if an injured man found a doctor somewhere, he had about a 30% chance of survival. It ain't the movie. People died. Many died from infections, from superficial wounds. I had antibiotics for 3 to 4 uses for the family, of course. People died foolishly, quite simply, and quite often. Simple diarrhea will kill you in a few days without medicine. Ain't that the truth? With limited amounts of water. There were many skin diseases and food poisonings. Nothing to it. Man, I tell you, if anything, what it does is actually stimulate thought and help you to really truly start thinking about the things that's important, because I personally don't trust my neighbor. I don't trust none of my neighbors up here. And I damn sure don't trust this town I live in. They have already made known to me who they are. And I'm so glad that they did, because that way I know who my enemies are. And I don't have to worry about trying to assume that somebody's my friend when they are my enemy. All of them have made themselves known, with the exception of one family in this town. And I'm not talking about the saints that move around. All the exception of one sound, true family. And myself and Straitway will defend that family with our lives if necessary. Let's go on. Many use local plants, pure alcohol, enough for short term, but useless in the long term. Hygiene is very important, as well as having as much medicine as possible, especially antibiotics. You know, I remember some time ago I told every home, I want you to store 50 gallons of water in your home. Good, clean water, 50 gallons. You know what most people did? Laughed at me, mocked at me, jeered me, and just unbelievable. You know, I know a wise man, especially his wisdom is despised. But I also understand, and I know this. I know that the day is going to come that a lot of the words that I have said is going to be rehearsed in your conscience and your ears. And you're actually going to take heed, but then it's going to be a little bit too late. So let's go ahead and move on here. 35 excuses that will doom the non-prepper. As of today, it is only an estimate that 1% of the population actually goes to much of any effort to prepare and store up enough of what they need to survive a true calamity. This means a huge majority of the population fails, yes, fails, to have much of anything if and when what they need each day to live evaporates quickly. Most people have no clue what life will be like after the grocery store closes. They simply cannot grasp the horrors that will befall those people that have not put away for tomorrow or prepared contingencies for life-threatening emergencies. Instead of taking some time and effort, the money to safeguard themselves and their families, they have a wide array of reasons, excuses, for why prepping is crazy and not at all necessary. There exists a magnitude of what are called true civilizations altering our world as we know it, and it ends events that could happen. Many have already occurred throughout history, as well as within just a decade. The fact is, I'm having a little bit of trouble reading this because I'm trying to meditate on this, because I didn't read his article before I present it to you, but I like meditating on things as I read, and I simply can't do that. I need to present the information myself and then go back and look at the video again, which I'm going to do anyway. It's only a matter of time before these catastrophes happens again. People who choose to not prepare for their families will be faced with life and death situations that few have ever experienced before. Without water, people would die within a few days. Without food, people would die within a few weeks. Without everyday necessities, people would die in hordes from varying ailments and diseases. Without what they are accustomed to on a daily basis, people will suffer and most will die. This absolutely does not have to happen in such a high percentage of the population, but sadly it will, unless more people understand there is no real excuse for not prepping. The following are 35 of the most common excuses and causes cited by 99% of the population who don't prepare. Number one, oh, come on. It is never going to happen. My area is safe. I am safe. Fact or answer? The overall odds increase of having a mega or even a lesser catastrophe as the population grows and the city grows in size. Just like increasing the size of a target, it is easier and more likely to get hit. Even if your area doesn't get hit, your location can be cut off from getting vital supplies from areas that did get hit. Every single spot on the planet as a target, from natural disasters to terrorism to war to pandemics, to a black swan event that no one expects. No one is invulnerable anywhere, and living this way is delusional and totally unrealistic. Number two, I'm convinced that everything is recoverable and my area will get back to normal quickly. Fact or answer? The media and the government have long ingrained into the people's minds that no matter what happens, it is repairable. Fortunately, up until now, there has not been a type of event that is so severe and widespread that recovery is very long or requires massive cleanup involving millions of people or trillions of dollars. There are potential disasters that occur on a regular time frame that could easily be ranked as hundreds of times worse than anything we've ever seen in our lifetimes. The New Madrid fault zone and the San Andreas faults are a couple of examples. A solar-induced or super EMP, that's an electromagnetic pulse, which occurred in 1812, 1857, and 1859 is another. Fukushima is a recent example of how bad things can get in almost a matter of 24 hours. Number three, no matter how horrible it is, help will eventually come. I just have to wait it out. Fact or answer? Help can come if there are people and resources available. All of the recent disasters have been fairly isolated and allowed the majority of the unaffected population to come and rescue those in need. What happens when the entire country is infected and most of the world? Assuming that your government or someone will reach you in an area with help and supplies, no matter what is dangerous, the government is going to spread help to those areas of the highest priority first. And that's what I mean, the president, his cabinet, the Congress members, the CIA, the FBI, and all those who have these resources and gobble them up for themselves like Homeland Security and everybody else. Not you, the populace. They don't care nothing about you. Your area will be weeks. Your area could be weeks or months away from help, and you could be long dead before help and supplies arrive. All right. There we are right there. Well, we're going to finish with this segment right here, and then we're going to return to you back here in a little bit, providing that you continue on listening and you enjoy this particular series right here. I do think this is something that you actually need to let your loved ones and everybody listen to. I mean, after all, it's just information. It's something to consider. Some of us take it to heart. Some of us act like, okay, we hear it, and we're very inactive, not proactive. And I will tell you this, I'll give you this piece of advice before I end this video. Here at the assembly where I pastor at, we are very careful who we allow to come and become a part of us. At first, when we started, we believed in the benevolence and the good heart of the man. Only come to find out that a lot of people who are so-called saved are still corrupt in nature and have no interest in doing anything about being converted or transforming their mind. These are the people right here that would actually step on you, shoot to kill you, take advantage of you whenever the time arrives. You don't need those kind of people around. You need to know them that labor among you, and you need to be sober. See you in the next video. Shalom.